before we kind of start, just want to take a moment to acknowledge the situation that's happening in the world today with Ukraine, and you can express our love and support in whatever way we can to folks who are affected. It's any kind of war-like situation is terrible for everybody involved, and that sucks. It kind of broke our hearts a little bit when we sent out our community email and for people to join into the call, and we had a few folks who responded saying that they couldn't join because of the situation right now, and our hearts go out to them. But yeah, just want to take a moment to kind of acknowledge that reality in the world today. Let's just say we have a slide. We just announced our fundraise, which sets us up for executing over the next year or two really well on just all of the stuff that I think we've been looking forward to from a product engineering standpoint, from a community standpoint, and allows us to kind of scale our operations up. So I'll kind of get into a little more detail of kind of what our plans are, and what you can kind of look forward to over the coming year. And then of course I'll also talk about a pattern that we recently worked on with a customer to bring in existing APIs, and so we talk about that after that quick fundraising update. So in our news on the fundraising side, just kind of wanted to give you folks a sense of the stuff that we have planned. I wrote up a little blog post about kind of the stuff that we're going to be, the stuff that we're up to. But just to kind of go through that with you folks here, over the last year, we put a lot of focus into kind of building out the managed service on Hasura Cloud. It's still work in progress, but it's been an amazing amount of effort to stand that up, to build out the enterprise version of our products as well, working closely with our enterprise users, and kind of based on that growth, it was really important for us on that commercial side to establish a foundation for kind of the long-term health and success of Hasura, right? Without which our company would not exist, without which we would not be able to maintain and support the open source project, and kind of keep working with the community to kind of keep adding features and keep adding support from our databases and stuff like that. So that was kind of most of our work last year in kind of setting up that initial foundation, in growing out our engineering teams, in growing out our product teams. What we've kind of been able to what as a company, right, of just about 100 people now, what we've learned over the last few years is that people and our users really like using the Hasura GraphQL API. It's a powerful API, and people want to use it for a lot of different use cases and in a lot of different situations, right, that they kind of want that data API in. What we've also learned is that because Hasura occupies such a critical portion of the stack, there's so many use cases and kind of day-to-day things that you encounter while using Hasura that you also kind of want as improvements and as enhancements or as new capabilities that are getting added to the product rapidly, right? And it's important for that to move as quickly as possible, because Hasura is essentially kind of the API for your stack, right? So you want that to keep getting more and more flexible, to keep becoming more and more powerful, for the experience, the day-to-day experience of using Hasura to become easier and better, right? And so that kind of essentially informs our focus going forward as well, right? Our big plan is to basically, the way I talk about it is to just help our community and our users take Hasura to all of the places they want to take Hasura to, and to keep working with them as quickly as possible, with as much velocity as possible, to keep solving for the problems they're encountering even day to day, right? So as you kind of encounter those problems, and accelerating our product development velocity to kind of meet your needs, right? To meet our users' needs. So that's kind of the key that's kind of the key theme for us over the next few years, and we're happy to kind of be able to partner with investors who understand the open source journey, who understand kind of this infrastructure piece of the puzzle that we're working on, and support us and support our community in building this out. I think in that kind of broad theme, one of the things that we're going to be really excited about launching at or talking about at HasuraCon this year, which is set on June 28th, and you should register for that. And one of the things that we'll announce there and talk about more detail is something that we've not done before, but a way for us as a community to contribute to Hasura and to add support for our favorite data sources, whatever it is, whether it's a database, whether it's a service or whatever it is, to Hasura. And we haven't talked about this yet. It's a little bit hush-hush, but as we kind of get closer to the date, we start seeing more material around it. It's essentially kind of taking out our internal interface and making that open so that everybody can kind of contribute incrementally to Hasura for their favorite data source, right? And because it's incremental, you can kind of start adding features and start using and getting Hasura features on your data source in an incremental and usable way, right? So you can start off with, say, reads with permissions, and then gradually add subscriptions, gradually add permissions, and permissions would be an initial part of what you'd want, the subscriptions, and then gradually add mutations, event triggers, and so on and so forth. So that's going to be a big area of work for us on the product engineering and community fronts, to kind of work with vendors and partners and community members and users in kind of working on support for these data sources together, right? It's the reason why I think this is really important to us is because when we think about open source, right, and how open source is important, open source is not just a marketing thing of kind of saying that, hey, it's open source, so come developers use it, right? And then sometimes what tends to happen, and this is obviously a very nuanced and hard discussion to have, but often as developers, we see projects that are back commercially change their license, right? For reasons that make sense, but it's confusing, right, to the users, to the community, to other people, right? It's a very tense problem. But for us, it's really important that the open source project that we're creating, right, it feels like it's a part of the community where the community has ownership of pieces of Hasura as well, so that they can kind of add to Hasura too, right? And that's really important, and that's one of the key reasons why Hasura is an open source company, right? Because evolving Hasura to kind of keep up with the future can only happen if all of us work together to own pieces of Hasura, right? And to be able to use it the way that we want to, and to be able to make it move in the direction that we want to, right? And so that's kind of a critical part of what we want to do, and we'll be seeing a lot of work around that this year. The other stuff is kind of usual, more company building stuff where, basically investing in product and engineering to accelerate that. We want to be much faster than especially last year when we were doing a lot of the setup work. We were not as fast as we would have liked to have been in responding to in responding to some of the more longer term needs that we wanted to build on the product for our users. And this year now we'll be accelerating that again. One of the things that we've done is, we now have a release every 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll be able to move that to an even kind of faster release cadence, and especially being able to opt into the latest releases on Hasura Cloud is a big piece of work as well, so that you can kind of keep benefiting from the latest and greatest in a safe and simple way, right? So that's going to be a big focus on product and engineering as well, apart from some of the bigger projects that we're working on. And otherwise, it's building out some of the other operational elements of the company. Our customer success team has been so critical over the last year in helping us work with our customers as they're kind of using newer features of the product, using new parts of the product. And they've just done absolutely incredible work in supporting the rest of the company and our users. And that's a team that we'll be also helping grow out, especially for some of our mission critical users, so that they have timely support. They have somebody that they can reach out to for help. as and when they need to. So that's kind of a quick look at the stuff that we're up to. And of course, we're hiring. So please feel free to check out the Hasura careers page and send an application, refer friends, family, whoever. And that we love to kind of chat with them. But that's on the Hasura front. If there's any questions you folks have, happy to take that, and then just dive into some of the updates for our usual community call.
All right, so let's open it up for the AMA and see what we have for questions that might come in here. Just give it a 1 minute here to see what we have coming in. Otherwise, I know that we have a couple that trickled in over the last couple of days that we can also have a look at. So while we're letting everybody type their questions, so you were already speaking a little bit about the plans for what we're going to be using some of the funding for in terms of the direction and the future of the Hasura product and company. What's something you think that Hasura is going to be playing a role in terms of broader GraphQL adoption and awareness, just as an industry partner and player? Because we're one of the bigger ones in the ecosystem now. Like, what do you see us being able to contribute in the coming months and year?
That's a great question. So yeah, I mean, we're one of the founding members of the GraphQL Foundation. Financially contribute to the foundation as well. And via the GraphQL Foundation, there's a bunch of projects that the foundation supports to, on the graphical side, the work on the specification itself, work on the reference implementation, right? And so that's a big part of what we do. We, in addition to GraphQL, by the way, we also kind of do work closely with some of the other open source ecosystems, right? Whether it's especially Haskell, and contribute kind of to the Haskell community as well, both in terms of time and code, but also as financial support too. I think on the GraphQL side, especially with the GraphQL Foundation, which is kind of one thread of the work that we'll be doing in the GraphQL community. The GraphQL Foundation is a really nice place to kind of look at different projects that are happening and kind of get into certain projects that are good for the kind of overall GraphQL community. It's a neutral organization. It's done a really good job at kind of shepherding that spec in a way that has allowed the industry to kind of gradually evolve around a GraphQL specification without it getting pulled in one direction or the other. It's always a hard thing to do. And so that's been great. And they've also started, the foundation has also started maintainer programs so that there's a kind of like a stipend and a maintainer fee that the foundation does give out to contributors and maintainers as well. So that's also started to happen. I think that's kind of one place where we'll continue investing and increase our investment there as well. I think on the other side of things, right, for us, making GraphQL available to as many people as possible is it's a great thing to do, right? Hasura is a great way to just try GraphQL out as well, right? You're not familiar with what GraphQL does. You want to see what GraphQL would look like if it's in your organization. You have one of the data sources that Hasura supports. It's great to be able to try Hasura and it's great to be able to try GraphQL out using Hasura, right? So kind of building off of that, right? One of the things that lines up very clearly with what we want to do as well, make sure that Hasura is kind of supported everywhere, so that then people can use that to get GraphQL everywhere, right? And that's kind of very Hasura specific. But the third thing also there is that there's a whole set of new projects on the GraphQL side, especially on the GraphQL client ecosystem, some of the GraphQL exploration tools and stuff like that, that are great open source projects that are coming in the community. And what we've recently started doing is exploring how we can support those contributors directly, say via, for example, GitHub sponsorship, etc., and helping that part of the ecosystem as well. Both in terms of kind of open source partnerships, both in terms of and in terms of financial support for them as well, so that they can keep maintaining that, right? It's always easy to start a thing and build a thing, and it's terribly hard to kind of keep maintaining it. And the open source reality of that is almost everybody is familiar with it. It's tough to be a maintainer, right? And so whatever we can do to help these kind of adjacent projects in the GraphQL ecosystem is something that we're thinking about a lot. Something that we've started doing a little bit of already, and we might think about how we can increase or amplify that over the coming